That's bad.
How does that map? Alright, we just carrying.
Hey, what's up guys, it's Liam or Weagle on your Overwatch, back with a new video. Today we're going to talk about one of the best team comps right now that's dominating a lot of levels of play, and that is triple DPS. We're going to break down why it's so good, how to run it, and also how to try and defend against it, because it is really difficult to deal with when you're playing on the defensive side. One of the reasons that this comp has come into play is because healing just isn't as good nowadays. The Ana meta is over and it's very difficult for her to sustain her team with the amount of damage coming in from all the different angles, and it's created a very fun type of dive comp that I think a lot of you will enjoy if you manage to run it in a competitive game. And that's the reason it works so well too. It's because when you're playing in a solo queue environment, people sometimes struggle to stay together and play as a team and defend the right way and coordinate. And when people are just running at you from every direction, that requires a lot less coordination than it does to really death ball up against it and defend it in a really good way. And that's what this really preys on. You have a dive tank, loads of flankers, loads of angles, and it's very easy to snowball the fight from there on. Now, if you're going to try and run this comp, usually you're going to want a Lucio on attack. We will go through defense as well, but you want the Lucio. Your second healer is kind of optional. Zen, Ana, and Mercy can all be good depending on the situation. You're usually going to want the double flanker, which is the Genji Tracer combination, and your main tank will need to be Winston or Reinhardt. Usually Winston, but Reinhardt does also have his uses. Now, we've got this one more DPS slot open, and this is interesting because if these other 5 picks are made, this last pick can be most heroes in the game, depending if it's on attack or defense. For example, you could put a Widow here because you're creating so much space that she can just take free shots from the backline. You could put in a soldier if you like to take the high ground. You could run a Pharah with the double flanker to rain down damage, and everyone else just follows up on it. This comp is very good right now and dominates GM. In nearly every game of Grandmasters, you're going to be seeing triple DPS. Now, this could be 2 factors. This could be because ranking up is easier on DPS, but fortunately right now running triple DPS is way better than a lot of the other comps people will present. Some people decide to take triple tank against these flankers in order to counter it. However, again, they can't be healed quick enough because Ana's not good enough, and oftentimes the flankers will still dominate a big tank setup. Now, one key part of this is the main tank, especially if you're running a Lucio and Zen combination, because it's hard for you to stay alive as Winston being the main tank. You're tanking with your face and your bubble, which doesn't have much health, so your initiations have to be on point. You need to dive in as your team go in with you and clean up, or you can pick out a really key target. Now, a very strong 2-2-2 comp right now is very similar to this, but you would swap out one of your DPS for Zarya, making your Winston's job a little bit easier. Now, one thing that's definitely harder to run right now, especially into this comp on defense, is Zarya and Reinhardt. They both can struggle very heavily against loads of flankers coming in from every direction. In fact, it's the first time that these two heroes aren't top of the meta since release, especially Reinhardt, because he does not have the utility to deal with flankers. Now, if they get really close, he can get a nice swing in there, but any good flanker with good movement will avoid any Reinhardt swing or fire strike, and Reinhardt's are dropping very quickly right now, and this is the reason. You cannot sustain the damage they're doing with healing anymore, and Reinhardt does not deal with flankers in the way that you would like. So what do you do on defense against this comp? And it isn't easy, guys. Now, some of the pros are actually running Zenyatta and Mercy on defense. However, you could run Zen and Ana, or you could run Ana and Lucio. It's kind of up to you depending on your team comp. But in terms of tanks on defense against this triple DPS setup, people are actually running Winston and D.Va, and I have managed to convince people to do this in matchmaking too, and it works very well. But again, the same as when you're on attack, your tanking decisions have to be on point. You have to wait until the enemy team initiate, and then you counter initiate with your team comp. If you just stand there as Reinhardt and they dive you, it's never going to work. But if you give them a little bit of space in order to then counter-initiate onto the point, that's very, very powerful in the current meta. Now again, it doesn't have to be double tank even. You could just have a D.Va or a Winston on defense. Torb can be quite powerful when coupled with a Zen on certain points like Hollywood or Numbani first. And taking multiple angles of approach is actually the easiest way to counter this in solo queue. And that's the thing, even though this comp is good at the pro level, it's better at matchmaking because the level of coordination required to actually counter it is super difficult. Ideally, what you would want to do is have a Reinhardt, put a McCree and a Roadhog behind it and hit hooks and hit stun grenades and stay with your team and keep the healing great. However, right now, that's just so difficult to do, with Roadhog being a massive hitbox that people want to just get their ult charge off of, and McCree being super squishy and easy to kill. It's actually easier to mirror this comp and run it in a similar way that people are doing on attack than it is to try and do what you would consider as the most obvious counter. Now, because of these flexible rules of matchmaking and how this can work, you don't necessarily have to have a main tank. I can show you some gameplay now where both teams are running a similar comp and there's like a Roadhog main tank on both teams, and this happens at Masters and GM2. And that other slot we're talking about can also be a Hanzo. Hanzo's super powerful and he's going to be even better with the upcoming patch so that his arrows move faster, he can shoot better when running up walls, he can also charge, run up a wall and then still has a full charge. So Hanzo's also going to be coming into the meta, and I can show you these examples on screen now of this comp and the similar one to it, which is the 2-2-2 comp, and you can see firsthand in the gameplay example why it works. There is simply too much damage coming in from every direction, and the coordination required to counter it isn't there when you don't know who your teammates are or where they are or what heroes they're running or how they're running their heroes. It can be very difficult. So strong heroes right now, guys, is anyone that can get to high ground or have good movement. So most of the offensive DPS are really good. Reaper is also quite a good counter to this as well because he just deletes things. If things are getting close to your Reinhardt, maybe you've got a Reinhardt main on your team, if you actually have a Reaper in there as a duelist, he can be quite good against this dive comp, especially at deleting the Winston. And the weakest heroes right now, guys, are actually the tanks. Roadhog, unless you're hitting all of your hooks, can be really easy to just feed enemy charge. Zarya can be hard not only to get charge, but also they just kind of feed off of your face as well. And Reinhardt just cannot deal with all of the different angles that are coming at him. Now, Orisa is in the same boat. And I think what would be interesting with Orisa is to see some kind of a buff actually not to her barrier, but in her crowd control element. Imagine if her halt could drag people in and then she would be more likely to actually get a kill from it. In that situation, she'd be really good against dive tactics. But right now, she just stands there being a horse, unfortunately, and doesn't really do a lot, especially against these current comps. So not only has she been released a little bit on the weaker side and they want to buff her, but she's also been released into a meta where her playstyle isn't working, and it's a really harsh counter for her and a horrible world to be an Orisa main. Movement is king right now, guys. Be good to see McCree get to a point where he can deal with these flankers to maybe tone it down a little bit, and you guys can let me know what you think in the comments. But personally, I would much rather be in a place where it's everyone diving, trying to coordinate, and the defenses be difficult and also force coordination so that the game is in a healthy, fluid place. Not in a place where you've got 3 tanks on both teams and all the healing in the world. This is the healthiest meta, in my opinion, and it's been a year since the game come out, and hopefully we can see some new heroes and some new maps and progress this meta forward, and everyone can start learning a little bit more what picks and counters mean and how much coordination is actually needed and teamwork and communication in order to counter comps, especially on 2CP and hybrid maps. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Be sure to check out our Twitter and our Discord where you guys can find the Winston main of your dreams. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you guys get notified when our videos go live. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a great day as always. Take care and peace, people.